right, here we go. It's Tuesday, March 18th. It's a beautiful day in Milwaukee. Hopefully you enjoyed your St. Patrick's Day. Hopefully your favorite team made the NCAA tournament. It's my favorite week of the year. The Badgers play at 12:30 on Thursday if anybody's interested, and we hope we make a deep run. Hence why I'm wearing my Badger gear. But anyways, also I just wanted a quick update for the group. There is no team meeting next week, Tuesday, March 25th. Nearly 90% of the schools in southeastern Wisconsin are on spring break, including myself. So we will, I know I've done this enough to know that you just cancel team meeting the week of spring break because usually everybody's out or checked out. So there will be no team meeting next week. So what do we got going today? Today we're going to run through cappers. We're going to run through awards through January, February of this year. I'm going to jump into a little bit of a mindset piece. I've done a lot of data January and February and into March, a lot of data to get you think. And now I'm going to kind of challenge your mindset in a way that actually I challenged the ALCs a couple weeks ago within a mastermind that we held. So I'm going to challenge your mindset as it relates to building your business of intention and purpose. And then we have tech and compliance, training and education. And I will finish with a quick little market update as to like what's happening within the market, as well as some accepted offer insights for the first few weeks into March. Sound good? Beautiful. Love it. Love it. I'm out in Prestige today. The group's ready to rock and roll. All right. So getting it going. Congrats to our February cappers, an incredible time of year in which to cap, heading into the spring market and the robustness of the spring market. So we have quite a few people to celebrate. First up, heading out of the North Shore with Levine Realty Group, Kiara Brown. Congrats on capping in the month of February. Next up, coming out live from Lake Country. She keeps killing it and keeps growing her business. Bethany Clark, congrats on capping in the month of February. Next up, one of the original OGs. This was the second person to move to KW. Tosh, we love you. Congrats on capping in the month of February. Next up, a dynamic duo of daughter and mother. Working and building businesses at different stages of their career. First up, congrats to Paris on capping in the month of February, as well as her mentor, her mother, Judy. Congrats to Judy for capping in the month of February. Next up, another OG, this one out of the TOSA office, who came to us kind of like in the Jerry Maguire moment, was leaving where she was coming. We didn't know what we were doing in TOSA and had no plans. And Ann Kleber has been there almost since day one. And congrats on capping in the month of February. Another OG who's been with us very from the days of the early days of KW in Milwaukee, sitting right in front of me, always intentional and purposeful, Mr. Tom Martin. Congrats on capping in the month of February. This guy's always dressed to the nines, running around the North Shore. Give a shout out to John Molitor. Molitor, congrats on capping in the month of February. Heading back in a similar place in the North Shore, working with dear friends and absolutely killing it in this business. Abby Myers, congrats on capping in the month of February. Now, next couple people heading out to the Lake Country. First, we got to give a shout out to Angela Palmer for capping in the month of February, building an incredible business, building every day. Congrats to Angela on capping in the month of February. Next up out in Lake Country as well, an incredible person who recently, maybe 2 years ago, retired from GE. Congrats to Jason Roman for capping in the month of February. And next up, this was the number one individual small group, I would say, working with her brother and learning how to build a really big business down in Racine. Congrats to Maggie Rattino for capping in the month of February. Next up, here's a little funny story. This next person used to make sure that I was always following the rules when I was running around a place that she used to work when I was in middle school and high school with my brothers. And she would always come out and she would say, "You Stallé boys, we need to get you in line." And now it's funny that we all work together. Congrats to Karen on capping in the month of February. I'll save that story for a different day, different time. But Karen and I have laughed about it many times before. Congrats, Karen, on capping in the month of February. Next up, Heading back out to Lake Country, really building a nice business and building it with intention and purpose. Congrats to Jordan Shelton for capping in the month of February. Next up, someone who's recently transitioned professionally, is learning how to build a big business, doing some flips with her husband. Congrats to Brittany Sprinkman. Brittany Sprinkman for capping in the month of February. And then two more to celebrate in the month of February. It's interesting. I had a conversation with this person recently out in family reunion, and I said, look at where your life was 5 years ago and where it is today. And it's dramatically different in all aspects, personally and professionally. Got to give a shout out to Bridget Ty for capping in the month of February. And then lastly, the one who gives and pours back into our community in so many different ways, is a mentor to many, both personally and professionally, and is always willing to give a kind hand. Janine Warner, congrats to capping in the month of February. So, a ton of people to celebrate across a variety of different locations, but excited to do so and to see so many people have incredible success. Congrats to those who capped in the month of February. Now let's take a look at February awards and the results that people delivered through year to date through February. So, Home Run Club in the month of February. So this is one listing taken, one contract written, one contract closed. This is the list you want to be a part of. Why? Because it means you got paid and you're going to continue to get paid. And you're doing the activities where you're seeing the results in the first quarter, which is vitally important for you to be able to achieve your goals in 2025. Home $1 Million Month Club in the month of February. You can see here, shout out to Elena, Aletha, Alexandra, Allison Marr, Andrew Keel, Bethany Clark, Kathy Shaw, Dusty, Ellen, Ethan, Ginger, Holly, Janine, Jay, Jean, Jessica Hanawi, John Molitor, Jonathan, Josh Holt, Julie, Catherine, Katie, Kevin, Lauren, Milena, Melissa, Natasha, Richard Rubens, Sarah Hansen, Sarah Oberbrunner, Shireen, Stephanie Miller, Stephanie Minnick, Tom Martin, and Tori Wagner. Congrats on $1 million month in the month of February. Now, GCI for agents on teams. Here you go. Janine leading the way. Melina, Will, my brother, Jonathan Newby, Steph Miller, Holly Gamlin, Steph Minnick, Katie Thomas, Kathy Shaw, Casey Lopez, Martha Ola, JOC, Paris Hebner, Kathleen Rosenheimer, and Spencer Harvey, rounding it out for those agents on team for GCI earned. Next up, percentage volume increase so far year to date. Got to give a shout out to Shannon Schultz, Jan, Say, David Lopez, CJ, Ellie, Jordan Tybinko, Katie Sayers, Benji Cohen, Elizabeth, Christy Sands, Julie Bulgren, Ryan Young, Craig Harden, and Robin McCormick. Shout out to you guys for the highest percentage increase so far through the first 2 months of the year. It's a tough start, right? Seasonally, based on how you do it. To be able to do this in the month of January and February is absolutely fantastic. Congrats. So, February individual volume. Here you go. Molitor leading the way at 3.4. Shireen, Allison Marr, Jean, Melissa Bradley, Tori Wagner, Tom Martin, Bethany Clark, Ethan Masson, Elena, Alexandra, Julie, Lauren Siegel, Sarah Oberbrunner, Jessica Hanawi, CJ Lewandowski, Abby Wall, Annie Jerzik, Ann, and Julie Bolgren rounded out for February individual volume. Year-to-date individual units, again, agents control their units. The market gives you volume. As the market continues to appreciate, you have no control over the volume aspect to an extent. You have control over the individual units that you control or close. Molitor leading the way. Melissa Bradley, Alexandra, Abby Wall, Lindsay Andrews, Sarah Oberbrunner, Ethan Masson, Elena Zeman, Shireen Woods, Lori Sroke, Joey Carini, CJ Lewandowski, William Lauer, John, Kristen Stahulik, Judy Moffitt, Jessica Hanawi, Julie Bolgren, and Mara Krieger rounding it out for individual closed units year to date. Year-to-date individual volume, Molitor again leading the way in all three categories. Robin McCormick, Elena Zeman, Jean, Dan Wild, Dan and Sherry Wild, Shireen Woods, Melissa Bradley, Ethan Masson, Allison Maris, Sarah Oberrunner, Abby Wall, Tom Martin, Judy Moffitt, Alexandra, Mara, Patrick, PY, CJ, Joey, Tori, and John, rounding it out for individual volume year-to-date. Now, February team units. February team units, 46 for Houseworks Collective, Root River at 37, Falk Grooven. Mind you, this is just in the month of February. There's only 28 days in February. 28 days. 28 days. This is incredible. It's the reason why I'm pausing here. House to Home, On Point, Levine, Stallé, Holt, Destes, PFPG, Duval, Rutino, Wessel, Enlighten, Lozniacki, MTM Collective, and Miller Marriott rounding it out for closed units just in the month of February. February team volume, FRG leading the way, Houseworks Collective, SRG, Root River, House to Home, Champagne, the Thai team. PFPG, Destes, Duval, Levine, Lozniacki, On Point, Revolution, MTM Collective, Enlighten, Holt, Fair Hinton, Wessel, and Rutino Kuiper rounding it out for February closed volume. Year-to-date team volume, Houseworks Collective leading the way, FRG, House to Home, SRG, Root River, On Point, Gallagher, Lake Country, Duval, Lozniacki, Champagne, PFPG, Holt, Destes, Rutino, Enlighten, the Thai team, MTM Collective, Wessels, Revolution, and Levine, rounding it out for team volume year to date. The reason why we share the data to it is to take stock in who it is that you're surrounded by and who it is that you might need help or motivation from. Because it's an incredibly collective group of people that are highly, highly productive. And it's to take stock in the productivity that you surround yourself with. And the productivity that you surround yourself with leads to income. This is the crazy stat. GCI from February was 3.5 million. It's up 52% versus February of last year. And we're comparing, just so you guys know, we're comparing apples to apples. There was 52% more GCI paid out this year, February versus last year, February. And year to date, it's at roughly 6.6 million, which is up 40% versus prior year. Now, mind you, the market is only just slightly above flat. So again, I share that with you to say that we have a lot of people absolutely crushing their January and February, which makes me so excited because you can't hit your annual goals if you don't hit it in the first quarter. How does this correlate to then profit share and what's paid out? There will be $31,712 that'll be paid out in February, which is up 220% versus February of last year. And year to date, it's $56,000, which will be paid out, which is up 107%. Again, all of it correlates to productivity, productivity, productivity. So be on the lookout this week on March 21st, which $31,712 will be deposited through people that are participating in profit share. All right. With that, now is when I'm going to challenge your thoughts and minds as it relates to how you correlate to your actions. Okay. And I've noticed a trend on something as of late. Sorry.
Yeah, but with another.
Thank you. All right. I've noticed a trend as of something as of late, and I was having a conversation, ironically, with Tom Martin this morning of something that I was participating in pre-COVID that I'm not participating in post-COVID, and it's playing men's league hockey. And I'm not playing in softball anymore. Part of it is like I'm in a different stage of life. Part of it is I have more kids than I used to have, so my time is just spread more thin. But it made me start to think. In the ALC, I challenged you with this about 3 weeks ago when we met, but I thought it was appropriate to share with the broader group as it relates to how are we building our businesses with intention and purpose. And I'm going to go back to something I've shared with you consistently over the last several weeks. And I'm going to share with you just a few things to make you think around how buyers and sellers find their agent. 78% of the time, a buyer finds their agent via referral, previously utilized, or online. And the people who avoid contact make less money. Again, relationships are a contact sport. You have to think about it in that way. Buyer interviews. 75% of the time, they only interview one person. Most people don't have enough time to interview two, and 91% of the time, when they do interview two, they select one of the two they interviewed. Okay? If you're not first, you're potentially irrelevant because people don't have the time or capacity to interview more than one. They're effectively telling us that. Now, flipping it on the seller side, 70% of how people found their listing agent was via a communication game because sellers found their agent, whether it was repeat referral or, ironically, they were contacted by an agent through personal outreach and touch. Okay? People do business with those that they know, like, and trust, especially when you consider that they're thinking about selling their largest financial asset on their balance sheet. And they're telling it because 81% of the time they only interviewed one agent. And some of you are like, yeah, I get it. You've shared this 3 weeks in a row. I'm hammering this point home for a reason. Okay? Because One of the great truths in life is that we can't choose all of our circumstances, but we can choose the person we're going to be and what experiences we'll have within those circumstances. As such, life is literally by choice, not by chance. Life is literally by choice, not by chance. So here's where I would challenge you. Think about the conveniences that our lives have been built in the last 4 years coming out of 2020. And I have 3 questions for you. How many of you worked from home in the last week? I'm going to say it's probably close to 100%. How many of you or family members have ordered food, groceries or restaurants through Instacart, DoorDash, Uber Eats, or through a delivery service in the last week? It's very high percentage of you. And in the last month, how many of you never left your home within a 24-hour period that created 0 human-to-human interaction? The chances are very, very high. Okay? Because life, as it's gotten more convenient in the evolution of technology, you know what has gotten harder? The contact point where friction can occur, where you can create meaningful, lasting relationships. So my question to you is, how many of you have struggled with your lead generation or forced human interaction in the past 12 months? And if you think about it, I call it forced human interaction. I consider it to be human contact, human relationships, but it's also as it relates to your business development. Okay. And if you think about your business development, sorry guys. If you think about your business development, is the reason why you've struggled with it a lack of motivation because you've been discouraged, because you lack confidence, or you've been inconsistent in your approach? The answer is likely yes to one of those 4 questions. And humans like the path of least resistance, similar to water. So what happens is when you have the fear of failure or a fear of certain things of rejection, you just stop because it's easier to sit at home and watch The Price is Right on a Tuesday morning than to get up and show up for team meeting. So my question is why and what are your patterns? What are your patterns within what has caused the conveniences of life to not create human interaction? So how often do you take advantage of the opportunities to get out in your communities to connect with others where what you do comes up organically? Are you being intentional and purposeful about your interactions with others? Because I would challenge you, there's a simple equation that relates to the outcome to your income. And it's the number of relationships you have and the reputation that you carry is the currency in which that you can keep. The relationships that you have and the reputation that you have built or developed is the currency in which that you can do this business. So I've been thinking about this in terms of the conveniences of life and how the conveniences have actually interrupted or created pattern interrupts with how we interact with others. And I would continuously challenge you around some of the things I talked about recently. 171 million leads were sold, only 4.1 million transactions occurred last year. So I came up with a list and I thought of something really simplistic because what's ironic is what is new is old and what is old is new. I saw something on social media recently. Actually, I think Peter Gossman Jr. was there, a 80s and 90s convention. And how nostalgia and things within the 90s are kind of coming back. Ironically, I have a friend who refurbishes cassette tapes and CD players, and he's making a killing right now in his warehouse in River West for selling them to retail stores. And I thought to myself, everyone in this business wants to be different, and everyone wants to be viewed different, and yet everyone wants to be a unicorn. And I thought to myself, how do you continuously be a unicorn? The way you be a unicorn is to do the things that no one else is doing. Ironically, the things that no one else is doing are actually the foundational principles of this business. So I created 8 ways that you can do low friction or frictionless ideas for business development. It all has intention or purpose around how you create friction, positive friction within your relationships so that people can understand and build your reputation for themselves. 1, show homes on social media every day or every week. 2, attend networking events. Simple, not easy. 3, create a BNI networking group. 4, text or call your database. 5, call and ask for a referral. 6, host 2 open houses a week. 7, host events in your home. In your home. The most powerful client event you can do is invite people to your home. Welcome them in and break bread. It costs you nothing other than time and energy to host them in your home. You don't need to host client events in these big, fantastic spaces. Invite them into your home, right? 8, have you gone or do you live on YouTube? YouTube is the world's second largest search engine. You need examples of that. I give a big shout out to Marcus Auerbach because he lives on YouTube, right? And people want to know what's going on in Milwaukee. He's very findable and searchable on YouTube. And so as I thought about how life's conveniences have interrupted our patterns as it relates to how we build our businesses and build our relationships and build upon our reputations, I thought to myself, what are 8 easy ways people can do it in a way that they would actually be viewed different? And you might look at this list and say, there's nothing on here that's unique. You're correct. Nothing on here is unique. It's your ability to actually create the action is what will make you unique. So that would be my challenge to you as you think about heading into the spring is how are you creating patterns of interruption because your peers aren't doing these things. I know it. Most agents in Milwaukee are posting everything they can on Facebook and hoping somebody sees it. Hope is not a great strategy. You have to diversify your channels, and diversifying your channels takes effort and energy, and there's lots of ways to do it. You just have to interrupt yourself to say, okay, I can't always push the easy button, and the hard button is actually putting myself into a position where we can create friction. And friction is where you literally shake somebody's hand and you have a meaningful connection. So something I've been thinking about lately is in terms of intention and purpose and how do we put ourselves into a position to build our businesses. So my themes for you coming out of that are this. The fear of failure can be a secret weapon. It can be. You hear about it a lot of some of the most successful people in the world. I use Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant. I'm a big basketball fan. You hear about it all the time of how they have this huge chip on their shoulder. The chip comes from a fear of failure. 2, if something matters to you, try is inappropriate. You get into a relationship with someone, you don't say, I'm going to try to love you. You don't have kids and say, I'm going to try to raise you. You do it. Try is inappropriate. You have to make a commitment. 3, do you fear or are you feared? I think the number one reason why the people don't do the 8 things that are actually what would make you unique, but are very simple and not easy, is they fear things. Yet if you actually did them, your competitors would fear you because they would know that Steve Law door knocked 1,500 homes last year and he's building a huge business, right? 3, commitment. You can't expect excellence without others' commitment. So why aren't you committed? For example, you spend $400 at Carnivore in a restaurant for a nice meal. I think Carnivore might be the most expensive restaurant in the city. Okay, for all of everything to go well and for you to have a great experience, you need to have a great hostess who creates a great first impression. You need to have someone who serves you at the table who expects your needs and desires when you expect them, not for you to ask it. You need to have a great team in the back of the house that cooks an incredible steak. You need to have an incredible bartender who knows how to cook or knows how to mix and curate appropriate cocktails to your liking. It takes a team of effort who are committed to what it is that they are asked to do. They don't have a team of people who do it half-ass. And so as it relates to your business are your systems and models committed to delivering excellence? Or are they committed or are they half committed because you're trying to do something? You have to make a commitment. 3 or 4 or 5 or wherever we are on it, time, don't be casual. Everyone has 24 hours in a day. Why is it that some others succeed more than others? They aren't casual with their time. They're intentional and purposeful with their time, and they schedule them first. They schedule their vacations. They schedule when they put their oxygen mask on first, right? Don't be casual with your time. So my challenge to the group as you head further into the spring market is if you actually want to be unique and different, is actually doing the activities that will make you unique and different because many of your peers within the industry aren't doing things that make them unique and different. And I created a list of 8 to try and say, you can do this very, very easily at a low cost or a low point of entry. It just takes a little bit of inertia or a little bit of momentum, right? And then I give you these themes to challenge your thoughts as it relates to how it correlates to your actions. So Whatever your world looks like right now, you alone have caused it to look that way. When you accept responsibility for creating a situation, you're ready to assume responsibility for changing it. When you're ready to assume responsibility for creating a situation, you are then ready to assume responsibility for changing it. And when you assume responsibility for changing it, you take control of your life. You take control of your business. Take responsibility for your relationships and build your business with intention and purpose. That would be my message to you, because I've hit you with a ton of statistics as it relates to what's going on within this industry as of late, because I've been trying to help you think through how you're building your businesses. And before some of us leave on spring break, I wanted to challenge as it relates to how you live a life of intention and purpose in order to build the business that you desire. Cool? All right. Linz, effortless marketing with new social posts. What do these guys need to know as it relates to our tech and marketing updates this week?
All right, good morning, everybody. Okay, so just a quick marketing update for the group. So we've developed some new grab-and-go materials that are part of our marketing concierge. You can access them through the Agent Hub on the website. So these are just easily, you can download them, post them to any of your social media accounts. So this is all content that we've created and it's ready to go for you guys. So what's included? We've got monthly market snapshots. So we're putting together specific snapshots for each county. So Milwaukee, Ozaukee, Waukesha, Washington, and Racine counties. So we're putting together snapshots for the previous month. So how many new listings came to market, how many accepted offers, how many sold. So we're putting those together for every county and then updating those monthly. So those will be included in there. We also have updated holiday posts. And then finally, most importantly, I think we have video content. So we all know how important video is nowadays on social media. Platforms are prioritizing video, consumers are favoring video, which leads to better engagement and more reach on your social media accounts. So we put together reels with the top 5 things to do in each county. So very similar to some of those articles that you'll see in the Community Pulse magazine. So we put those together as reels for each county. So you can download those and post those to your social media accounts. So those are all gathered together and added into the same Google Drive folder where you'll access that through our Agent Hub under the tech and marketing resources. That's where all of our 12 direct campaigns are located, some of our other noise for our market centers. So you'll see all of those under Post and Go. So those are live and you can download those and start posting those today. And new posts will be added monthly. So obviously the market snapshots will be added every single month, along with some additional things as well. So stay tuned. So that QR code on the screen will take you right to that Google Drive folder. But again, you'll find it through the Agent Hub, tech and marketing resources, and then you'll see a folder called Post and Go. So that's where you'll find everything. And then I think, yeah, just more tech and marketing training coming up this week. We've got Peter Gossman Focus Title on Thursday. And then the last tech and marketing training for the month of March, we'll be going through compliance and command and zip form training. As usual, we do that training every single month. So if you're new to real estate and new to Keller Williams, please make sure to jump on that and prioritize that. Those are recorded and uploaded to YouTube as always. All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Linz. All right, now I'm flipping it over to Chief Herbert. Chief Herbert, we have a few things to remind the group as it relates to telephone solicitations. Why? Because you don't want to get called in front of the DSPS and be fined very heavily handed. We've seen it happen before. So what do these guys need to know, Chief?
Yeah, so actually this is a state and federal law. So there are Wisconsin laws follow very closely the federal laws. So as long as you're following the state laws, you're good. So what is a telephone solicitation? A telephone solicitation is an unsolicited telephone call that encourages the consumer to purchase goods, property, or services, or a call that is part of a plan or a scheme to encourage the consumer to buy property, goods, or services. So how does this correlate to real estate? If you're calling FSBO sellers and expired listings in order to solicit any brokerage services. What does not fall under that is if there is a FSBO and you have an interested buyer. That would not fall under this. But if you're trying to get the listing that falls under the do not call. What button did I press? Oh, you control it, Charlie. Okay. How do I comply? So if you are making cold calls to expireds, to FSBOs, to anybody, you need to make sure you're registering with the National Do Not Call Registry as well as the Wisconsin DATCP. And so the National Do Not Call, it costs about $80 to register, and the Wisconsin is about $700. And this is something you have to renew every year. And as Charlie mentioned, there are hefty fines if you are, if somebody files a complaint against you, up to $43,000 per violation. So it's extremely important that you are registering for this. And if you're using a service to make calls for you, that they are also registered. As far as Keller Williams, you can go to the next slide. We have some policies that are outlined in our ICA. So if you are registering with the Do Not Call list, we want a copy of your kind of your account, your subscription, so that we can keep that on file and ensure that we have you guys covered. Any questions?
And you might ask, why do we want a copy? Here's the truth. We want to mitigate things so that you actually aren't even aware. There have been instances where we've been reached out to by the DSPS and we take the copy and say, nope, they're registered. And the agent isn't actually even aware that someone was looking into it, because we don't want that to be a distraction for you. We want to be able to intercept those things off and fend them off at the pass. And if we have the appropriate documentation, we can be your advocate for you instead of looping you in and trying to create this distraction for you, which it doesn't actually help you move forward. So that's the reason why we like to keep these things on file, is just to help you mitigate your risk and be an advocate on your behalf. And in the event that DSPS comes calling and asking, we just got to do a little homework together and help you navigate what that looks like. I would also tell you, I would not take the threat of their violations lightly. We've seen the fines in which that they will administer and admonish to those that violate it, and they can be hefty. And if you thought the excluded listings rule was a hefty fine, don't test DSPS as it relates to the non-solicitation law. Cool. Just as a good reminder as we head into the spring, is the volume of activities hopefully continues to go up for you. Thanks,
Yeah.
Chief Herbert.
Oh, we got a question in the house.
So for the federal and state Do Not Call list registry, does it have to be individual agents, or can a team register for the agents underneath that team?
So a team can register, essentially you're registering, yeah, a team could register and have access to that account.
And then the members of the team that are calling would be protected under that.
I believe so.
You gotta call from the same number.
Thank you, Andy Stillman.
You have to, correct. It's by phone number.
Yeah, and you can register multiple phone numbers, but it just costs more money. I think the state, I think you get up to like 2 phone numbers. Don't quote me on that, but yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Cool. All right. You have more direct questions for this? Send them to somebody in leadership and we'll research it for you if it impacts you directly. Cool. All right. With that, we're going to flip it to training and education, and I will finish with what's going on the first 3 weeks in March to look at a micro focus of the market. So training and education here in the month of March, a little March madness for you. As a reminder, no team meeting next week on March 25th due to almost every school in the southeastern Wisconsin being on spring break. This week, Wednesday, which is tomorrow, there's a lunch and learn with Jay around price to sell. Here's what you should really be considering. Expireds are going up substantially. I've talked about it a lot consistently. Okay. Expireds are going up because of poor communication or improper pricing. Learn how to do both and what makes Jay the master of taking listings tomorrow in the North Shore office with a little lunch and learn at noon. Next, Peter Gossman, we did sign him to an NIL deal per his request. If you want to understand how he leverages a variety of different titles and deeds in order to help reach out to find and manufacture listings, Peter will be teaching that on Thursday the 20th from 11 to 12 via Zoom. Sound good? All right. Here you go. Market insights for the first 3 weeks of March. Very simplistic micro view. Okay. New inventory units. It's the 3 best consecutive weeks of new inventory that we've seen in the entire year. We went from 413 to 458 to 488. In the last 24 weeks, which is the last 6 months, the average has been 410 units per week. So you can see over the last 6 weeks, we've now started to get above the watermark for what it's been for the last 6 weeks, which means inventory is building. Now, sales absorption rate, the reason why I look at this is all around demand metrics. And this is the percentage of inventory that goes under contract in a given week. And you can see last week was 11.5% of the inventory went under contract. The week prior was 10.7, and the week prior to that was 10.4, leading into the first 3 weeks of March. It was the 3 consecutive best weeks of sales absorption rates so far. What that means is demand is remaining constant and building as we build into the seasonal nature. You can see over the last 6 months, the average has been 8.2%. So it's up almost 50% versus what the average has been over the last 24 weeks. Next is units going under contract. Very similar theme. It's the 3 best consecutive weeks in 2025. The latest 6-month average was 331 units would go under contract in a given week on average. Last week was 401. The week prior was 382. And the week prior to that was 378. So good news is March is building momentum as it seasonally we would expect it to. Okay. And it's time to go. It's time to put gas in the car and get to work. So when you look at this, I would just create a conversation I've noticed or been having with agents. What I did was overlaid units going under contract with new inventory units coming to the market. Okay. And what I would challenge you with just simply from a visual is what you are, going to help you understand what you are feeling. Okay. And if you go back here into September, we had a significant gap. In the red is units that came to the market new. In the blue is units that went under contract. When you have that gap, the feeling you are having is the environment is less competitive. And that was true last fall. We saw more price changes. We saw days on market growing. We saw all these sorts of things. What you felt last fall was true, and you can tell it by the gap. And then what happened was January and February, obviously the gap closes a little bit heading into December and January, which is normal, but the gap starts to shrink, right? And now you're seeing the gap shrink even more. And when that gap shrinks and units going under contract continues to skyrocket, and yet new units coming to the market aren't keeping pace with those that are going under contract, which is why you're seeing the sales absorption rate go up, you're starting to feel a more competitive market, okay? What I'm showing you visually is actually what you should be feeling. And I had this conversation yesterday at the Innovation ALC meeting. Okay. New units going under contract are outpacing those that are coming to the market. And so it is becoming more competitive. Now, what's interesting, because I had a few agents ask me over the weekend when I've heard of some scenarios such as in Tosa and a $350,000 listing that had 26 offers, and only one person's going to win in that scenario, is what is winning. So I went and looked at the first few weeks into March as it relates to the metrics around what offers are being accepted or how are people pulling. And what was actually is interesting is, yes, it's getting more competitive, and yet there was no significant difference in the first 2 weeks into March. So what is still true in February is carrying over into March, despite the fact that the market is getting it is getting more competitive. I'll be continuously paying attention to those metrics so that as things start to invert, specifically, I know as it relates to inspection contingencies, I know are a big point. I'll make sure to keep you up to speed as it relates to as things start to convert. What I would tell you where you're starting to see the most significant difference is the list price to accepted offer ratio. And what you can see that was happening in January where things were going under contract below list price is now you're starting to feel that competitive nature where it's going above where a list price is just based on the data. And you can see last year in the most robust market, which was July, last year that list price to accepted offer ratio was 105%. So we're not there, but yet you can see that it's building. And so I'm sharing with you that what you're feeling is real. And we're going to continue to monitor the data to help you stay ahead of the pace of what the market is moving at. Cool? All right. With that, it's a beautiful day in Milwaukee. It's March 18th. Go Badgers on Wisconsin, Thursday at 12:30. And for your Marquette fans, I hope that, well, I'll leave you with that. All right. Guys, it's a beautiful day. Reminder, no team meeting next week. Anything you need, our leadership teams are here to serve you. Any insights, any data, whatever we can do to remove obstacles to ensure your success, we're here to do it. Thanks for showing up, guys. Appreciate it.